First, we'll discuss about the JNDI. JNDI is nothing but Java Naming and Directory Interface. And there are, first of all, we'll try to understand what is directory servers. So a directory server is very much similar to database server. It means we can store or we can look up or we can modify the information using directory servers. The examples of directory servers are Active Directory Server from the Microsoft, Active Directory Server from Microsoft, Novel Directory Server from Novel, a Network Information Server from NIS. WebLogic, JBoss, WebSphere, provides the application servers, provides the directory service. Provide the lightweight directory access protocol called as LDAP. What is LDAP? Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. Who will provide this one? WebLogic, JBoss and WebSphere application servers will provide lightweight directory access protocol server. JNDI API will access these servers. JNDI API will communicate with these servers to access LDAP protocols. These are the database servers called as database servers. These will access by JDBC API. Now tell me, what is the difference between JNDI API and JDBC API? What JDBC API will do and what JNDI API will do? This is the interview question. You have to answer now. Just now I told.
So JNDI, the normal database is
Yeah, fine. Anybody know the concept of JNDI previously? Piyush?
No.
Sajad?
No.
Okay. So in the real-time scenarios, we are going to use this one for getting the connection. What is exactly meaning? Tomorrow's class I will show you how to, in WebLogic or JBoss I will install. There I will show you how to access connections from the JNDI by using JBoss or by using WebLogic. I don't have a setup now. Only JBoss is there. I have to set up. Okay. So JDBC API is used to connect with the database servers, whereas JNDI API is used to connect with the directory servers. The one of the directory servers which are going to use as part of our applications are called as WebLogic, and JBoss and WebSphere will provide some server called as LDAP server. From this we are going to get the connections. We'll see how we'll get the connections. Okay. The directory servers are optimized for searching the information available with it, the directory servers are optimized searching the information available with it. That means a directory server can search for the information quickly compared to database server. A directory server can search for the information quickly compared to the database server. Next point, a directory server is not that fast. A directory server is not that fast. In performing some other operations like storing or deleting or modifying the data, whereas the database server is very efficient in managing a huge amount of data compared to directory server. If you go to WebLogic, once we install WebLogic, tomorrow I'll show you how to create initial context object. So in WebLogic, we're going to configure some configuration. So based on that configuration, we are going to do some initial context value. Okay. So for example, initial context is stored. I will tell you what is initial context. Context is called as ABC. Okay, consider this is called as ABC or JNDI test. Okay. In case of directory server, the starting point is called as initial context. Initial context. A context is nothing but it is a directory. Context is nothing but a directory. Next point. Under initial context, you can store a set of bound objects as well as we can create a subdirectories.
Subhila, can you hear Chaitanya? No, Pavni.
In order to run the Java application that we use direct servers,
Java application.
that uses the direct service of WebLogic, we must set the class path pointing to weblogic.jar file. To get the next point, to get the reference of the initial context object, we must set the values of various properties. We must set the various properties. The information about properties can be obtained from the software vendors. Shreyaj, have you gone through the videos, any of the videos which is there in the YouTube?
Are you asking something from me?
Yeah. Any other videos you gone through yesterday?
I saw the first one which you have talked about objects and methods and variables. That's only one I saw. Yeah.
Okay. Dharani, you know the concept of JNDI?
No.
I think this is like Active Directory, right?
Yes, almost.
I guess you're querying Active Directory and getting information from there about other servers and just sending information. It is used mostly in messaging, I believe.
Not like that. Mostly
No?
messages only, but we also used it to, main purpose is to get the connections, database connections. From the
So
server
I
side, we
have
always configure. Every application has their own server side, server side JNDI rules. From there, we are going to configure.
I think it will have all the IP addresses of all the servers on the network. And when some information is to be sent or it has need some information, so it will look up. I'm not sure. No, I am just guessing that it.
We'll see tomorrow how to connect with the JNDI.
So when you move the thing from development to production, you make any changes here because the environment is different, production and development.
Yes, the thing is, we have basically we are going to configure schemas in schema like dev1, qc1, prod1. Each and everything has different schemas, right?
Yeah.
But everything we are going to communicate dev database. Dev database will be there for that. Dev database. Again, QC database, where QA guys will test their applications in a QC environment. Once we complete the dev environment, once we complete the changes, any changes, right? Then QC will test it. Once QC is complete their testing, then move to production. Here, production database. There are three databases will be there based on the three schemas. How we are using XE right in as part of our applications. This is X schema. So like this, dev or QC like this will be there. Okay.
Also, you will change this when you move.
No. Each and everything they have their own configurations.
So
If you are working with your databases, there is one property where there will be some configuration will be there. The property file we are going to map to dev database.
Okay. Now I got it. Okay, there's a property file that you.
Yeah, that property file we are going to map. That property file contains like it looks like we are going to show something. In that property file we have all the Java class path settings and where your workspace located, where your Java code is located, and where you are pointing to, and all the database information. We are going to provide the schema information over there. Okay. Once it is done, then automatically it will move to QC. Once you check in, once the code is merged, once it will move to QC databases. From there, QC will test. From there, again, where it will move to production based on the release dates. So here, every database will be available. See, in my database there are many. This one is there. Which one? Many schemas are there. These are the different schemas. These are the different schemas. So I am using system user. These are different user. So based on the system user, based on the schemas, I am going to, in my Oracle or my JBoss, I am going to configure some connections. Okay, that we'll talk about how it will work internally.
Can we use Glassfish also, or it has to be JBoss?
No, Glassfish also we can use it, but nowadays people are preferring either WebLogic or JBoss. Most of the people, I guess. Am I correct? Some admin pass something, but these are the properties we must use as part of JNDI information. Initial context factory. Here we're going to use logic dot JNDI dot.
So you can install WebLogic complete server free, or you get it from somewhere.
You get it from somewhere, yeah. Now here I am going to create a context object. Context equal to new initial context. Guys, this is very important concept. Very important. From context dot, we are going to use I told it context is nothing but a directory. We can create subdirectories. Create subcontext by using subcontext method. There is a method called as context.bind. The context.bind method is called the information about Java object will be stored in the directory service. The information about the Java object is stored in the directory service by binding the name to the object. The directory service by binding the name to the object. Context dot rebind method. To replace an existing object with a new object, we can use rebind method. We can use context dot rebind method. Can use context dot rebind method. Into the point of view, they will ask. Okay, there is a method called as context dot unbind. Context dot unbind method removes the objects which are stored earlier. Let's take this. Context dot lookup method. Very important concept. Concept dot lookup method used for getting the references of the objects. Getting the references of the objects that are stored in the directory service. lookup method can be used for getting the references of the objects that are stored in the directory service. And also, lookup method will throw an exception. Lookup method will throw an exception if there is no object available within the name of, if there is no object is available with the name specified as a parameter to the lookup method. Parameter the lookup method. Important, very important. There is very important concept called as connection pooling. Anybody know any answer for this?
I think I know about that a little bit. So in this, you make a pool of connections and people use it, and when they are done, they disconnect and the connection goes to the pool.
Yes.
So it saves, it's very efficient, it saves time, right?
Yeah, most of the people are using this, the connection pooling.
But how do they do it? I don't know. I just know the very high level.
Yeah, that will be done by using JNDI.
Okay.
It is advisable to use connection pooling technique to deal with the databases from the WebLogic application or EGB applications. Basically, what is connection pool? Is a database.
No, these are connections
Yeah.
to the database.
This is the database. Consider this is my application. Like, call it, this is my server. Consider this is the example of WebLogic. If you are using directory service, here I am going to have, based on my directory service, I am going to have some predefined, please write down, predefined connection objects. Predefined connection objects. Like stars. These are the predefined connection objects I'm going to use as part of WebLogic by using directory service. So how these connections will be communicated, based on this one. I don't want to put more because I want to diagram again. I want to make again. So it will communicate like this. It will communicate to database. So like this.
I have a question here. So remember when we were doing the JDBC application, we were creating connection objects. So if we are using these connections from the pool, will our application be a little different or?
Yes, application will be same only, but we are going, instead of using connection JDBC every time we are writing, right? We are loading from the server. We are loading from the WebLogic server.
So that piece of the code will be different or it will not?
Yes, I'm going to show you now.
Okay.
Okay. This object, what are the object in the box, right? This object you can call it as a data source. This object call it as a data source. Okay. Please take the diagram if you don't mind, if you require. Pavani? Yeah. This part is called as data source.
Yes, Chaitanya.
Okay. Understanding, right? So we have created a data source object internally. Then we are going to write a program here. Here in JDBC, how we will get the connections, right? Same thing here. I told you before this diagram. I told you something called as I'm going to create one data source name is called as JNDI test, right? I think you must have heard. So I'm going to load the initial context object equal to new initial context. Initial context object, there is a parameter called as I'm going to use some parameter. That parameter, it will come from as a property information, or else we can use same example. Yeah, this property information I'm going to use here. connection dot context dot lookup method, context.lookup method. Here I am going to use, we will configure basically the database data source name as org slash emp or anything or JNDI test in the WebLogic. I'm going to load that one by using lookup method. What is lookup method will do, Suguna?
Lookup method will is used for getting the reference of the objects
What
that
object?
are stored in the
What
directories
object?
of
What object it will return? Data source object. The lookup method return type is data source object. It is an object. So I'm going to return the data. Here, lookup method return type is object. I'm going to make it as a data source here. Okay, data source is a class, interface. It is available in java.sql data source. So once we have data source is ready, this one I am doing from WebLogic. I am creating the data source from WebLogic. Remember, please don't confuse. This one I am doing from WebLogic based on these configurations. Once the data server is ready, data source is ready. From there, I am going to get the connection. Data source dot get connection. What is the connection method return type? The connection method return type is connection, right? So connection equal to data source dot get connection. I think from here you guys know from connection what is the steps we need to follow. Connection dot from here you guys know.
create statement.
Yes, create statement or prepare statement, anything we can use it and we can execute the program. So here we are avoiding driver reminder get connection method. Instead of driver reminder get connection method, we are using that data source dot get connection. How the data source is loaded by in JNDI applications by using initial context dot lookup method. In lookup method, I am going to provide the JNDI data source which is created by WebLogic server or JBoss server or Tomcat server. Is it clear, guys? Shaz, is it clear for you?
Yes.
You know how to get the connection from the connection pool now? Now this is the JNDI tester. This is my data source name called as data source name here. This by using this one, I'll get the connection. I'll get the connection from the connection pool. I will use it here. Once you use connection dot close, connection will move back to my data source object, so that the connection will be reusable again for the different developers, again for the different transaction. This is the concept of connection pooling. To get the connection from the connection pool, we must use data source dot get connection method. Please write down. To get the connection from the connection pool, we must use data source get connection method. You will ask interview questions. How will you get the connection from the connection pool? Next point. Next question. How to get the data source object? Answer. Context dot
Lookup method.
Who is this? Which context? Chaitanya context or Pavani context?
Data source.
what context I'm talking about, which context you're talking about. Initial context.
Yeah. Okay.
As the data source object information is stored in the directory service. Piyush, I didn't heard any answer from you. You're following? Rohit? Piyush, Rohit, are you there in the class?
Yes.
As the data source object information is stored in the directory service, we must use initial context dot lookup method. Context is interface here, and initial context is a class. Next question: how you return the connection? If you use connection, you done some operations here, like delete some data. Okay. Then how it will go back to the connection object? How will go back to directory servers? How to return the connection from the connection pool? The answer is connection.close method. If you call, automatically once you use the connection, it will go back to the connection pool so that we can increase the performance of the applications.